Okay, so NL West, really good got probably two of the best teams in baseball, and then it kind of drops off after that. So in first place, I have the Dodgers. Can't really like not put them in first place after, winning the World Series and then getting, getting Trevor Bauer. I mean, how can I not put them in first place? I know what the Padres did this offseason, but you know, it, they're the World Series champions, you know what I mean? So I have the Dodgers in first just because they still have their same core with Betts, Turner, Will Smith, Bellinger, Pollock, Muncy, you Corey Seager, you get the gist. They still have the same guys. The only guys they lost were Peterson, which kind of hurts, and Kike Hernandez, who I think isn't that good. He's on the Red Sox. Then they have probably the best rotation in baseball with, Kershaw, Walker Buehler, Trevor Bauer, Dustin May, Julio Urias, David Price. I mean, that is just unfair. I mean, you've got to be kidding me. Dustin May is like a number one on pretty much every other team, basically, and he's like their number 4 starter. I mean, look at this. They've got Kershaw, Bauer, Bueller, Dustin May, Julio Urias, who is absolute beast in the playoffs, and then should have been World Series MVP, David Price. I mean, this is just ridiculous. It's insane. Then they added Tommy Cannell in the bullpen, re-signed Blake Trinan. You've still got Eric Gonzalez and Brewstar. I mean, they're just gross. How can I not put them in the first place? They're nasty. Then, of course, you got the Padres, who, the reason I didn't put the Padres in first is because their rotation's a little worse. It's a little worse, and the lineup is a little worse. And their bullpen is a little worse. So they're just a little worse. They're still, obviously, they're going to be great. They're going to make the wild card. They still have a really good lineup, though. I mean, their lineup, they've got Tatis, Cronenworth, Machado, Pham, Hosmer, Will Myers, Profar, Austin Nola. Really good lineup. Then on the bench, you've got, what's his name? Jorge Oña. This is annoying. I can't remember. Greg Garcia maybe is on their bench. Caratini. So very good lineup. That's going to produce and score a lot of runs. No doubt. Then you've got guys like C.J. Abrams. They got that shortstop from China too. Is pretty good. From the KBL. And I can't remember his name, but he's also going to be good. And then their rotation is great. It's not there, I would say, with the Dodgers, just because it's not as deep. But of course, I mean, toe for toe, they can compete. I mean, they've got Darvish, Snell, Musgrove, Lamet, who's gross, Morahone, who's nasty. Paddock needs to bounce back, but he can be on that level too. So rotations when they have Clevenger, their rotation will probably be better than the Dodgers. And if Paddock restates himself as a number one. But also their bullpen took a little bit of a hit. They got Melanson. Well, actually, that's a stupid statement. They lost Yates, but they got Melanson. They lost Yates and Rosenthal. They did get Melanson. But they still have Pomeranz, and Melanson, and Craig Stammen, and who else do they have? Let me look at their bullpen real fast. Oh, Emilio Pagan, that's who I forgot. He's great. They got Keon Kalo, who's another good addition. Pierce Johnson, Dan Altavilla, a couple of guys who just throw absolute gas. And so they're just a little worse than the Dodgers, not totally there yet, but they're still really good, and they're going to be great this year. In third place, I had the San Francisco Giants, which will come to a surprise. I think a lot of people had the Diamondbacks in third, but I had the Giants. They just grind. They score a lot of runs. They play really hard. And and they're just crafty with it. I don't know. I love they got Tommy La Stella. Like, they really needed a guy like that, and they got him. They still have like Donovan Solano, Yastrzemski, Dickerson. Posey will be back this year. Brandon Belt. They'll have Darren Ruff. Alex Dickerson. Marcel Dubon. Joey Bart. And then, they've got like Gosman starting, Cueto, DeSclafani, Alex Wood, Aaron Sanchez. So that's a great group of starters. But yeah, I mean, it's great they got back Gosman, Cueto. I like getting Aaron Sanchez, Alex Wood. Hopefully he'll produce for them. And then their bullpen is not that great, I don't think. I'm trying to remember who's in their bullpen, and I can't, so I'm gonna have to look it up. Giants bullpen. Let's see real fast. They got Jake McGee, and that's Matt Whistler. Those are the only guys I really recognize. Besides for that, it's not very good. Yamaguchi from the Blue Jays, Trevor Gott, but not a great bullpen at all. But I still think they'll be better than the Diamondbacks, just because the Diamondbacks kind of collapsed last year, in my opinion. But really, like, for this division, there's just no motivation to even like compete because the Padres and the Dodgers are so good. But the D-backs are pretty good. I mean, they've got David Peralta, Marte, Escobar, Christian Walker, Carson Kelly, Pavin Smith, Nick Aved. Pavin Smith will be great to see, 4th overall pick. Really excited to see what he can do. And then their rotation's good. I mean, you got Merrill Kelly. Who's that guy from the Cardinals they have? Luke Weaver, Zach Gallen, Caleb Smith, right, from the Marlins. Bumgarner sucks. So they don't really have a good 5 option. And then, but their lineup's really good. So I'm excited to see their lineup in action. And, they got Asdrubal Cabrera, Dalton Varsho on the bench. So I like their, LaCastro's okay. So I like their bench a lot, and just overall their lineup, I think it's pretty good. Bullpen is okay. They got Davinsky, they got Joakim Soria, which I like, a couple of good acquisitions. I think that guy Ginkel can turn around. Throws pretty hard, he starts like this. They have Tyler Clipper too. But it's kind of a weak overall bullpen. And, that's kind of why they have them. I don't know, they're going to be close with the Giants. I just think the Giants are more scrappy than the Diamondbacks, which is why I have them in 4th place. In 5th place, I think this is a given. I have the Rockies. Absolute disaster with the Arenado trade, as I covered before. Probably one of the worst trades in baseball history, to be honest. You trade Arenado for a couple like run-of-the-mill prospects. You trade Arenado and $50 million for like a couple of random prospects. It's just mind-boggling that you would make that trade, and you couldn't get any better offers than that. I mean, if you're gonna do that, then you might as well just keep him and let him walk in free agency. If you're gonna get a bunch of horrible prospects for him, that's not right. They got one guy who's pretty good, who's like a starter who had low ERA, and it might say here Austin Gomber. He was pretty good last year. And then they got a bunch of random prospects besides that who were like top 10, maybe top 20 in the Cardinal system. But just despicable, you can't even get like Liberatore, Nolan Gorman, or Dylan Carlson for for Nolan Arenado, excuse my language. My tone should suggest, like, you gotta be kidding me. I mean, you gotta be serious. You can't be serious that, like, that's your deal. Not only that, you're basically just leaving Trevor Story out to dry. I mean, he's one of the he's the best shortstop in the league, in my opinion. He's a franchise player, generational talent, and he's just stranded on this horrible team. Same with Blackman. Charlie Blackmon. So really, this is just an awful squad. Without Arenado and without David Dahl. I mean, they couldn't fork $3 million to re-sign him. They got CJ Cron. I like they brought him in, but overall, this team stinks. They have decent starting pitching. I mean, they have Marquez, John Gray, Freeland. I guess Gomber will be okay. Senzatel is fine. And then their bullpen's not that great, but Rockies need to find out kind of where they're going here, because I don't, and I don't think anyone does know. They're kind of a lost cause at this point. So, yeah, Rockies in 5th place. I don't think that's a surprise to many. And last but not least, we have the NL Central. Sorry, the air is starting to get stuffy down here. I'm in the basement of a library, by the way, if you're wondering about this odd scenery. But anyways, last but not least, we have the NL Central, which is what everyone's been asking about. Who do you have winning the Central? Who do you have winning the Central? Who do you have winning the Central? I have the Crew, the Milwaukee Brewers, winning the NL Central. And I know that's a surprise to many. Even I'm surprised I'm making this pick. That makes no sense. But I have the Crew winning, and I will tell you why. The Brewers weren't even that great last year in terms of, well, they were good. They were okay last year. They were 31-29. They made the playoffs. They're the last team to make the playoffs, and they got crushed by the Dodgers. But the bottom line with this is that should teach us a lesson, right? Yelich, Hura, and I don't think Braun had that great of a year, but Yelich and Hura, their main two players, Lorenzo Cain wasn't even there. He opted out. Yelich and Hura both had horrible seasons, and they were still 31-29. So if they're able to be like 500 when Yelich and Hura sucks, imagine Lorenzo Cain joining the mix. Yelich gets to restart the season. Same with Hura. You bring in Colton Wong. You bring in Jackie Bradley Jr. That's a pretty solid team. Nonetheless, to add, they have the best bullpen in the MLB with Hader and Devin Williams. The one question for them is the starting rotation. And I totally agree. Like, their rotation is not that good. Woodruff is the number one starter. Corbin Burns is pretty good. And then after that, Hauser, Brett Anderson, Freddie Peralta. That's not great. But I think it's good enough for them to get by just because their bullpen is just so good. I mean, their bullpen is nasty. I think it's the best in the NFL. I really do think it's the best in the MLB, especially that they added. They also have Brett Suter, who led the MLB, I believe, in Sierra last year, which is nasty. It was either Sierra or FIP, I'm not sure. They also brought in Brad Boxberger. Nasty bullpen. So, like the Rays, like your bullpen can support your bad rotation. Like, that's feasible. And then their lineup is awesome. I mean, you bring in Colton Wong, you bring in Jackie Bradley Jr., you bring in Travis Shaw. That's really going to make your team a lot better. And they don't have any weak spots, really, in this lineup. I mean, you've got Wong leading off, Kane, Yelich, Hura, Shaw, who was great for the Brewers when he played for them, Bradley Jr., Arcia was the one guy who had a pretty good year last year, and then Omar Narvaez, I mean, he's a good defensive catcher. Maybe he'll hit a few bombs. And then on the bench, you've got Urias, Avisail Garcia, Vogelback, who can hit homers. So, I mean, overall, I think they have a pretty good team. And, am I confident? Why did I pick them to go be better than the Cardinals? Well, let's get into that. I picked the Cardinals to finish in second because I don't think they're going to score enough runs, even with getting Arenado. Their lineup is really questionable. Like, you have Goldschmidt and Arenado, right, who are two of the best top 10 position players in the MLB. But besides for that, my question is, where are your runs coming from? DeYoung is like the most streaky hitter on earth. and it's not guaranteed that he's going to produce. Molina's not a great hitter anymore. Dylan Carlson, I keep hearing all this praise about him. He hit like 170 last year in 30 games. So yes, I do take sample size in that, and yeah, I guess he'll turn it around, but like, I need to see it. Edman's good, but I don't think he had a good average last year. Tyler O'Neill, again, another question mark. I guess Bader's going to be their third outfielder, and he can't hit. So they still have Matt Carpenter, but I don't think he was good last year either. Lane Thomas, Justin O'Neill, a lot of just questionable names in this lineup that I don't know where they're going to score runs. And I don't know, I mean, they really needed like Arenado, because if not, their lineup would have been atrocious. I mean, this gets their lineup to like above average. It's still not that great. And the bottom line is, I just don't know where their runs are going to come from. Then looking at their rotation, it's pretty it's good, but I don't know. It's probably better than the Brewers, but like not by that much. I mean, you have Flaherty as your number one. Then they have a little more depth. Like they got Michaelis, he's pretty good. Maybe Kyung-won Kim will be better than a lot of people have predicted. They also have Dakota Hudson, and Wainwright, Ponce de Leon, John Gant. I guess Martinez now is starting this year. So that's a decent rotation. It's probably the best in that division. And then their bullpen is decent too. You have Gallegos, Hicks, Reyes, Helsley, Genesis Cabrera. They did get lit up in the playoffs, but it's still a pretty good bullpen. I don't think Andrew Miller is that good anymore. And interesting to see if we see like Gorman or Liberatore this year. But I just don't think their lineup is just a lot worse than the Brewers, and their starting pitching is a little better, and their bullpen isn't better than the Brewers. So that's why the Brewers just have the advantage in 2 out of 3 categories, and it's a significant advantage in terms of lineup. Their lineup is significantly better than the Cardinals, and that's just my opinion. I gotta end this video because it's getting too long. So.